can't really say too much about extensive enterprises, but when it comes to extensive, Hiya sure knows how to blow a budget on an army builder. Here's a look at the G.I. Joe Exquisite mini-series, Cobra Viper. Cobra Vipers are elite soldiers of the Cobra forces, rigorously trained and skilled in various forms of combat. As the backbone of the Cobra forces, they undergo additional training, developing unique skills and military specialties. They undergo tests constantly, with their ranks regularly evaluated and restructured to ensure only the best remain. Their diverse abilities bring greater versatility to the Cobra. Cobra Vipers continue to play a pivotal role in the ongoing battle between good and evil. I feel this guy hasn't come to wash your windows. But what we will do, though, is not washing windows. We're going to take the tape measure. Yeah, and we're going to measure out just how tall this figure actually stands. While I'm doing this, I'd like to thank the folks over at Hiya Toys that did provide this sample. The Cobra Viper, one of my personal favorites, is going to stand at 4 inches in height, working out to be a figure that's 10 centimeters tall. Sad that we don't have a Dr. Mindbender or Serpentor to lead them, so we'll have to rely on seasoned stand-ins. Here's what they look like with the former leader of Cobra, that'd be, of course, Cobra Commander. Cobra Commander is a great looking figure. Still is probably one of my favorite figures we've gotten from Hiya Toys. And here's also what he looks like with Serpentor. Serpentor still would have been around in that season. Let's bring in some other regulars here as well. We recently looked at Zartan, so we can bring him in. Why not? Here's also what they look like with Firefly and Major Blood. I think Major Blood still would have been around in that season. And of course, if we're going to be looking at the Cobra Viper, always being given the excuse to bring in my original 25th anniversary version of the Viper. Still one of my favorite figures. He has seen some upgrades, obviously, with the new release from Hiya Toys. They've made him a little bigger. They've made him a little bulkier. But the look, though, of the Cobra Viper stays around the same. He even has the same goggles on the tops of his head. Aside from the goggles, they don't seem to serve a purpose. The Cobra Viper does come included with 2 firearms, 2 swappable hands, and you probably can already see he does come with a backpack that matches his costume. But before that, before I draw your attention to these, can I draw your attention over here to the display stand that comes included with the Viper? Yeah, this stand is pretty much the same stand that we've got with other exquisite mini G.I. Joes, or Cobra for that matter. The train in this case seems to be, well, let's flip it around and make sure it's identical, seems to be exactly the same. I'm convinced, though, that Hiya is using about 2 or 3 different unique patterns, because the terrain of the mud does change, as well as the placement of the casings. But the one that we get here, as the example that I pulled, seems to be a carbon copy. Maybe not so much a carbon copy. I did notice that this was a little shinier. The Cobra Vipers is a little more matted of paint, but they plug in the exact same way. Wait, what? They plug in? They do. If you also look over here, the figure does come included with a couple of these little eye brackets. How these eye brackets work is if you look on the bottom of the stand, there's a slot here, and then they rinse and repeat the same idea on this side, this side over here as well. So what you do is you get these eye brackets. They plug in, and you get 2 of them. I'm only going to use just really one of the example. Take yourself the second stand and plug them in place. I mean, really, you only need the 1 eye bracket. You could use 2 just to ensure that these aren't going to be going anywhere. But for me, at least, when it comes to displaying these Cobra Troopers on the shelf, I would likely go maybe Cobra Commander, Destro on the front, and then if I have more troopers, that go along the back. I think we're also getting an Alley Viper. I can't wait to see that one in hand. So yeah, I like the idea that the more that you have, the bigger the terrain gets, and the bigger diorama gets as well. Let's move those to the side. The figure does come included with a couple of guns. Now, here's my real issue when it comes to these. Isn't so much the fact that the Cobra Viper has these, or that he has 2, but the ones that they chose to give him happen to have the same problem. I despise, as my personal opinion, I despise firearms that have closed-off handles. And you'll notice that both of these have to have them. The problem becomes when you want to have the figure displayed with it, it's super difficult, almost next to impossible, to get his grip around the handle. Well, first of all, with the hand not popping off. The hand just plugs onto the end of the peg like that. But even if you just want, you know what, let's just take the hand off right now because it's easier to show you. It's so difficult to get the handle in there when it's closed off like this. Because a lot of times you'll find that because of this being here, it really does prevent the hands from properly holding the guns. So like you can get the hand to hold it, but it doesn't hold it all that well. Companies need to really get away, and this isn't necessarily a fault on Hiya's part, it's just a gun that they chose, but never really to include an accessory where a gun has to have a back stock like this that covers completely. As you can see, like just the way that he holds it awkwardly. Let's plug that onto the peg here and just kind of get things underway. And you could say to yourself, well, maybe you're picking the harder gun to hold. Actually, no. This gun is even harder to hold. Not only does it do the exact same thing, but it seems to do it smaller. So it's almost impossible, again, to get that thumb in there and get the gripping hand around it. At least I got one gun in his hand, and I'm good for that right now. Now, he does technically come, not just with the guns that you're seeing right now, but a gun concealed on the side of his holster. On the other leg, he actually has also a sheathed knife. Let's just take the hand right now, remove it from the gun. We'll put those off to the side. By the way, though, just to put him down here for a second, he does also come include with a backpack. The backpack looks good, though. It's the same color of this blue. It's not near the black that we got with the 25th anniversary. 25th anniversary also, unfortunately, phoned it in when it came to hollow bits, especially backpacks. You can see right there, there's a whole big hole in the middle. This one, at least, is finished all the way around. I can't really ensure and say 100% that this is a fully sealed bit of plastic. It could be hollow inside, but it certainly does have that feel like it's a solid bit of plastic. Oh, there goes the backpack. As I was saying before, I flung the backpack across the room. Luckily, I was able to retrieve it. The backpack does actually have a peg, a little higher on this side, a little lower on this side here. So what you can do is you can take yourself your guns and you can plug them onto the pack. Now, I think one peg is a little bit bigger than the other, so you kind of have to match them up, like for like, hole for hole, and see which side works better for you. So we'll plug it on one side, and then again, we'll get ourselves the other gun. Flip it around here, because don't try to attach. I guess you could really attach it around the handle, but it works better with the hole. And again, you just plug it onto the back of the backpack. This one doesn't stay, though, as securely as the other. And then you take your backpack, and then on the back of the Cobra Viper, there's a hole on his vest, and you just plug the backpack there. Yeah, this one gun never really stays properly. You can just get that on there, and you can have it displayed like that. Now, to be fair, though, I could have really also flipped this around the other way, but just more so to show you that there is storage on the back of the figure's body. Speaking of storage, though, as I did mention earlier, let's just take the backpack off his back. Located on the side of the figure's leg, there's also a holster, so you can unholster a little pistol. Pistol's done really well. I mean, for the fact it's small like this, even adding the attention to detail with a little bit of gunmetal gray, I do appreciate that. I suppose you could also clip that on the back of the backpack too, but if he already has a holster, why not just put the gun there? On the other side, we just move his arm out of the way. There's also a knife. You can pull out the knife and decently well-painted blade. It's a hard plastic too. I was kind of really expecting this to be a rubbery plastic. And again, we'll just kind of put the knife away before we fling that across the room. With that all now being said, let's get a closer look at the Cobra Viper. Now, the Cobra Viper, as normally Vipers would be, he does have the goggles on the top of his head. One thing I thought was kind of cool that Hiya did was they actually have the goggles on a hinge. They're pegged on both sides, so not only does it look a little bit more modernized, but you can take the goggles and you can move them down. Still, I don't know what this is really effectively doing. I mean, with the visor being the way that it's designed, can the Viper not just see through the... I mean, you're only kind of just blocking off what's already blocked off in the first place. If he does have a screen, say, for example, on the inside of his visor that allows him to see, what exactly are the goggles doing on top of that? Now, the 25th anniversary kind of did that same thing, too, where you could take the goggles, but like these goggles, which are separate pieces, they could come off. This one I think I just forced on. Maybe I even glued these ones on. I think I did. I glued them on just to make sure that the goggles weren't going to fall off, because they, again, fell off frequently. The details, though, between the two figures, you can kind of see, again, some more of a modern evolution between the two designs. He's a little leaner, though, on this design for the 25th anniversary. He's a little bulkier here for the Hiya Toys release, but very similar styles of colors. I like the blue. I think there's a lot of cool details going on here. You got the Cobra symbol there on the top, many different pockets there on the feature on the front, and pockets down below here as well. This will affect a little bit of mobility of the figure, and you can actually even feel that the pack, or the vest, is a separate piece over top of his torso. Sorry, this looks ridiculous. Let's just move these up a little bit. That looks a lot better. Yeah, the pack, the vest, I keep calling it a pack, the vest is a separate piece that goes over top of his torso, and it does have a little bit of additional metallic blue to it. The metallic blue also finds its way down below here on the pockets, and also down below here on the front of his guard for his shins. It's a really nice, well-painted figure. Normally, I would have just said, you know what, give me the classic look to the Cobra Viper, but I gotta say, like, the look to this Viper is modern enough, but it's not turning me away from it. I think it's got a really neat design, even though, again, like, the goggles make no sense to me. I'm only ever really going to be displaying them on the top of the helmet anyways. For me, I think they're more decorative than they have a practical purpose. The only one thing I will say, though, about the Cobra Viper is with, again, like the pack being on his body, it does limit a lot of the mobility on the figure, but you can still move a lot down below here. You just can't do a whole lot up at the top of the torso. Firefly sort of had that also same issue because, again, like he had a vest that covered over top of his body. But that's a small thing for how good this figure actually ended up being. For the figure's articulation, Cobra Viper does have a ball joint in the head. So not only can you move it all the way around, would you also believe, though, that further down from the neck, there's a ball joint at the base of that plugs into the rest of the figure's body. So it's sort of a twofold here. The figure does technically have a ball joint here and a ball joint down below. The top of the torso, again, a little bit more limited, but he can still rotate at the base of his abdomen. The arms do rotate. I did notice, though, that the arms are really tight. Tight, in fact, as you can see. I probably even shouldn't be doing this right now, but they do rotate in theory, but with mine at least, they rotate very tightly. The arms do hinge out at comfortably, more at a comfortable 90-degree angle bend. There is also a bicep swivel, which actually I kind of like the way they've hidden the bicep swivel. So it just, I feel it kind of looks a little bit more like it's just one of his suits. I mean, when you look at it from the side, you can see clearly there's a cut and there's the Cobra symbol on the top. But when you look at it from the front like this, it does kind of just look like there's a fold or a crease to his fabric. So there's a swivel in the bicep, there is a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. For his legs, the legs do split out. Now, you can also drop the legs down a little bit to get a further reach. I don't think the likelihood is there that we're ever going to be getting ourselves some Cobra vehicles. A Cobra Ferret would be ideal, but I don't know if we're ever going to be getting any vehicles to go along with these Joes or Cobras. I hope, though, that's something that Hiya Toys will consider. Swivel, though, at the top of the thigh, double hinge on the knee. There's no articulation here. However, there is an ankle pivot up and down and an ankle rocker back and forth. I'm sure, as already mentioned, that their figure does come included with the display stand. It would be also safe to say as well the figure does also have pegals on the bottoms of his feet. Do I like the look of the Cobra Viper? Yeah, sure I do. I still think it's ridiculous, though, that Cobra Viper has always had goggles on the tops of his head. It's going to move his hands out of the way. Did we kind of even look at the hands? The hands are, by the way, trigger-firing finger hands. Not that it really makes things any bit easier when it comes to him holding the guns. Speaking of the guns, that's about the only thing I really don't like about the Cobra Viper. I like the pack. The pack matches, of course, the coloring of his body, so that's good. I just think that they could have probably chose better guns. These guns look okay until you get to the handles. The handles just are a problematic nightmare to get him to properly hold. I don't feel like there ever should be a time. I'm almost even feeling tempted to kind of cut this piece right here so you can actually have an accessible handle. It's bad on here. It's even worse on the smaller gun. Other than maybe just giving him different firearms for him to wield, the Cobra Viper looks exquisite. Oh, I see what I did right there. This is also one of the Cobra Vipers, one of the Cobra Troopers that Hiya Toys is going to be releasing. They're planning also to do a Cobra Trooper, and I think they're also doing an Alley Viper. Of those ones, at least, though, my favorite has always really been the Cobra Viper. Still, though, to this day, while I've sold, unfortunately, all the rest of my 25th anniversary figures, there's still a select few that I've kept in my collection, like the Bat, like Cobra Commander, like the Cobra Viper. You can again see like the progressive transition, like the way that they've progressively modernized the look of the suit, but it's still recognizable enough. It's greatly different from the original design of the Cobra Viper, but there's enough still there to read a Cobra Viper. And I love the look of them. I struggle anymore to try to get those guns into the Viper's hands. At least Hiya does have storage space technically for all the accessories that come included with the Viper. So those guns, if you don't like them either, can plug onto the back of the figure's pack. What I've decided, at least instead, he needs to be shooting with Joes with something after all. He does have at least a gun holster on the side of his leg, so I've got him with that right now. You could also do the same thing with the knife they sheathed on the other side of his leg, so there's other weapons that he can wield other than those obnoxious guns. I think they look okay, but the moment you enclose a handle inside of itself, it's next to impossible to get a figure, especially with hands this small, to hold it properly. Speaking of things that don't work all that well, still I don't understand what is the practical purpose for the goggles on the top of the Viper's head. If you look at that sort of the same way as Cobra Commander, you would think that a visor, he can't look through it, right? So it's probably a view screen on the inside of the visor that not only provides night vision, maybe thermal heat censoring, it probably gives him a whole bunch of other things. If you put goggles over top of that, you're solving what was already a solvable enough problem with a solution that nobody asked for in the first place. I'm not going to fault Hiya Toys at all for the fact that they include it. It's one of those notable traits that just baffles me, and yet it's one of the things I like the most about the Cobra Viper. The look of him is, again, an upgrade from what we're used to seeing, but it's an upgrade at least that I recognize on the character. This is the kind of Cobra trooper that I really would like to get an army building going, where I maybe would have a couple more that I can have displayed beside or even behind the dear Cobra Commander. That is, again, until Dr. Mindbender then creates a new leader for Cobra. I hope, though, that we're going to be getting an exquisite mini-series of both Dr. Mindbender and Serpentor. Speaking of other things that are on the horizon for Hiya Toys, I did mention earlier, though, the Alley Viper. I was actually thinking of the Range Viper. That's currently on a pre-order. Can't wait to get my hands, though, on the Range Viper, too. What do you guys think of the Cobra Viper? Let me know down below in the comments section. Do you also think, like, it just makes no sense? Why does the Cobra Viper have goggles when he never really needed that as a problem solver in the first place? Again, a big thank you to the folks over at Hiya Toys that did provide this sample of the brand new Cobra Exquisite Mini of the Cobra Viper. Yeah. If you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. I hope so. Even though we are kind of wrapping up things right now for the Cobra Viper, there is actually one more exquisite mini that we've got lined up for the rest of this week. So I hope you guys are going to be coming back for that. If you need also a fix for Hiya Toys popping up at the very end of this video, not only will be G.I. Joe reviews that I've done in the past, but also Hiya Toys reviews too. And there's more coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.